The gunshot cracked through the morning, sharp and solitary, echoing off the suburban rooftops. Lena Voss staggered back, her grocery bag slipping from her hands, eggs and oranges spilling across the driveway. The man before her stood calm, his black pistol steady, aimed at her chest. His eyes were cold, unblinking, like a predator sizing up prey. Behind him, another figure waited, silent, his shadow long and heavy in the dawn light. The air smelled of wet grass and gasoline, and the neighborhood held its breath. Unapproved exterior decor, the man with the gun said, his voice dry as dust. Code 12A. You were warned. Lena's pulse hammered. Warned? There'd been no letters, no calls, no knocks. Her eyes flicked to the small ceramic bird bath she'd set by the porch yesterday, a whim from the local nursery. Was that what this was about? Her mind scrambled, but the gun pinned her thoughts in place. She tried to speak, but the second man moved first, snatching her phone and vying her toward a matte black SUV parked at the curb. No plates, no markings, just a void that seemed to swallow the light. Move, the second man growled. He was shorter, broader, with a shaved head and a smirk that didn't reach his eyes. Both wore black tactical uniforms, no badges, just a white patch on their chests. HOA. Lena's knees buckled, her hands shaking as she braced against the SUV. This wasn't about a birdbath. This was something darker, something wrong. Across the street, a curtain twitched, but no doors opened. No one shouted. The silence was complicit. The taller man lowered his gun slightly, his gaze locking onto hers. Get in, or we make this official, he said, his tone flat, certain, as if her choice was already made. Lena's breath caught. She wanted to scream, to bolt, but her body wouldn't move. Then she saw it. Her front door creaked open, just a sliver. No one was there, but the movement was deliberate. The men noticed too. Their heads snapped toward the house, their confidence flickering. The shorter man muttered something, and the taller one raised his gun again, aiming at the door. Stay put. He barked at Lena, then nodded to his partner. They stepped toward the house, cautious, like wolves sniffing for a trap. Lena's legs gave out, and she sank to the ground, her back against the SUV. Her heart pounded as the men reached the porch. Then the SUV's engine roared to life. The men spun, shouting, but the vehicle was already peeling out, tires screeching, vanishing around the corner. They stood frozen, exposed, then sprinted to a second car hidden down the street and sped off, Leah vying Lena, trembling amid the spilled groceries. Evan Voss pulled into the garage an hour later, his pickup truck's engine cutting off with a soft click. Lena was inside, curled on the Lee vying room floor, knees to her chest, staring at nothing. Her hands hadn't stopped shaking. She didn't need to speak. Her eyes said enough. Evan didn't ask questions. He stood in the doorway, his broad frame tense, his jaw tight. Then he moved to the hallway, opened a locked panel, and pulled up the security footage. He watched it all. The SUV, the men, the gun, the shove. Frame by frame, he absorbed it, his face unreadable. When it was over, he shut off the screen and stood still, just breathing. The neighborhood knew Evan as the quiet one, fixed his own fence, skipped block parties, always returned borrowed tools. Reliable dull. But Lena knew better. She'd seen the scars on his hands, the way he scanned crowds, the nightmares that woke him, sweating years ago. They'd moved to Cedar Hollow 5 years back to escape something Evan never named, something that left shadows in his silences. Now, as he opened a closet and pulled down a black duffel bag, she saw that past stirring. He didn't speak as he zipped it open, the sound of metal knot tools, not a gun, something else echoing faintly. He walked to the garage and shut the door. Lena stayed still, her fear hardening into certainty. Whatever came next, it wouldn't involve cops. Evan didn't sleep. He sat at the kitchen table, a legal pad scrawled with notes. Partial plate numbers, street names, timestamps. A cold coffee mug sat untouched. The house was silent, save for the fridge's hum and the occasional creak of settling wood. Lena tried to talk to him once, around midnight, standing in the doorway. He didn't answer, his focus absolute. She watched him, then retreated upstairs, Leah-ing him to his work. He started with the footage. Their cameras caught the SUV's exit, turning east. He needed more. Over the years, he'd mapped local security feeds, Ring doorbells, Nest cams, a few hacked traffic cameras. By 2 a.m., he traced the SUV to a gated community, Oak Ridge, 3 miles away, entering twice in the past week. The RFID gates meant someone inside was involved. He noted the address and dug deeper. By 3 a.m., he had screenshots of the men's faces from a street camera. The taller one had a faint scar above his eyebrow. The shorter one had a tattoo, a snake coiling around a dagger VY, Sybil, under his sleeve. Evan opened a laptop he kept offline, loaded with a database of contractor records, leaked files from private security firms. Some he'd collected, others came from debts owed in silence. It took 30 minutes to ID the tattooed man. Derek Kane, ex-mercenary, tied to a defunct firm called Ironclad Solutions, blacklisted after illegal detentions during a Texas flood evacuation. No VY tie-ins, just sealed files. The taller man was Victor Reed, ex-Special Forces, now a freelance enforcer for hire. Both were ghosts, thriving on fear and fake authority. Evan turned to the HOA. A Cedar Hollow bulletin from 2 months ago mentioned enhanced compliance patrols funded by a private initiative. It led to a name: Sandra Holt, Community Oversight Chair. County records showed a dismissed lawsuit against her for unauthorized security hires. Holt wasn't the target, though. Evan wanted Kane and Reed. By dawn, he had Kane's address rental on Cedar Hollow's edge, no cameras, weak locks. Reed was trickier, no records, but a repo forum alias led to a storage unit 6 miles out, a hub for gear and secrets. Evan marked both on a map, folded it, and packed his duffel. As he left, Lena met his eyes. "I won't kill them," he said, his voice low. She held his gaze. "Yes," she whispered. "You will." He didn't argue. Evan began surveillance that night, parking a borrowed van 2 streets from Kane's house. Kane returned at 6:45 p.m., still in his black uniform, radio in hand. Evan tracked his routine, checked the mailbox, scanned the street, unlocked the door. Reed arrived later, 9 p.m., in the SUV. They drove to a diner, laughing, oblivious. Evan followed, headlights off, staying back. They never noticed. Over 2 nights, Evan built their profiles. Kane was loud, impatient, always checking his phone. Reed was quieter, sharper, his eyes always moving. They weren't law. They were predators in costumes. Evan had seen their kind before, in places he'd buried. On the 3rd night, he intercepted their radio, signal analog, unencrypted, amateur. He built a clone transmitter from garage parts and tested it at 2 a.m. It worked. He whispered, "You picked the wrong house." He switched it off, knowing it would shake them. The hunt was closing. The 4th night started routine. Kane drove, Reed lounged, their radio crackling every 30 minutes. They patrolled Cedar Hollow's quiet streets, fog curling over the lawns, streetlights dim. Kane tapped the wheel, restless. Reed chewed a toothpick board. At 10:50 p.m., the radio hissed, sharp and wrong. Then the voice, "You picked the wrong house." Cold, clear, not on their channel. Kane braked hard, eyes wide. Reed grabbed his gun, scanning the dark. "What was that?" Kane snapped, switching frequencies. Silence. "Someone's messing with us," Reed said, but his voice wavered. His phone showed no signal. The SUV crept forward, then they saw it, porch lights blinking out one by one, down the street. Click, 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 like a trap closing. "Turn around," Kane muttered, sweating. Reed nodded, but the SUV died dashboard dark, engine silent. It coasted to a stop, fog swirling around it. Kane cursed, slamming the wheel. Reed checked his gun, movements quick. A knock echoed from the rear window. They spun, guns raised, but the street was empty. Then the voice closer, inside the SUV, "Step out." Kane screamed, clawing at the door. Reed stumbled out, guns sweeping the shadows. They stood back to back, hearts racing, but no one was there. A flash blinding, sudden erupted from a mailbox. Kane fired, bullets tearing into the dark. A taser snapped from the side. Reed dropped, convulsing, his gun skidding away. Kane turned, too late. A second stun round hit, and he collapsed. They woke to smoke and gasoline, zip-tied to chairs in a strange garage. Their radios lay smashed, their uniforms burning in a steel barrel, flames licking the air. The heat stung, the smoke choked. Beyond the fire stood Evan, his face shadowed, gloved hands still. He didn't speak at first. The silence cut deeper than words. Kane squirmed, his voice cracking. "What do you want?" "We'll leave, I swear." Evan raised a hand, and Kane stopped. "You thought you could walk into my home," Evan said, his voice steady, "point a gun at my wife, and walk away?" He stepped closer, the fire glinting in his eyes, not angry, just certain. "You thought she was alone." Reed coughed, desperate. "It was a job. We didn't know." Evan tilted his head. "A job." He dropped their clone radio at their feet. "You're not enforcers. You're nothing." He stirred the barrel with a crowbar, the flames roaring, consuming the HOA patches. "I won't kill you," Evan said, moving to the door. "That's too quick." He paused, his voice a whisper. "But I'm taking your certainty, your control, your belief you're untouchable." He looked back. "Next time I burn what's inside." He flipped the switch. Darkness swallowed the garage. Their panicked breaths mixed with the fire's crackle, unsure if it would spread, if he was gone. That was the point. Evan returned at dawn, the sky bruising purple. He parked, wiped his boots, hung his jacket. Lena sat at the kitchen table, a cold tea mug in her hands. They didn't speak, just looked at each other, bound by a shared truth. 2 days later, the Cedar Hollow HOA sent a notice: private patrols suspended indefinitely. No details, no names. Kane and Reed vanished. Kane's rental empty, Reed's storage unit cleared. The SUV was gone. The neighborhood shifted. Porch lights went out early. No more HOA warnings, no clipboard patrols. When Evan walked to his mailbox, neighbors nodded, not warmly, but with respect, fear, knowing some lines couldn't be uncrossed. Lena placed a bird bath on the porch. It stood steady. Each morning, she sipped coffee, watching the street, reclaimed but carrying the shadow of what Evan had done. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.